Uganda!
When I first thought of the work we were told CLIP would be doing in Uganda, I will admit I was very skeptical of how much good a group of 17 students could do in 10 days, especially after our class conversations on the importance of acid-base development. My first 2 days in Uganda only served to reinforce this thought, as we did not spend any time working, but rather adjusting and learning about the community and problems that plague them.
'Cause I don't need boxes wrapped in strings and designer love and empty things.
We also spent a good deal of time taking in the sights around us, like Lake Nabugabo, where we listened to presentations on HIV/AIDS and local organizations' role in combating it. It was only once I began to work after these 2 days, however, did I realize the value of the lag time we were given. In those 2 days, our group was able to settle in with our host families and adjust to life in Masaka. At first, when we began working, I spoke only to my group members, and a large part of the reason for this was that the people we were planting trees for did not speak English. Rose, however, did thank us in her own way by dancing for us as we planted trees in front of her home. As the work continued though, my stilted Lugandan and the community members' English was enough to have a conversation. We talked with our fellow workers about what we were studying in school, what America was like, how we were enjoying Uganda, and what their daily lives were like. What I enjoyed the most, however, was being able to talk and joke around with the locals helping us, despite differences in age, gender, race, and language. I was able to have some meaningful conversations with them, and it was truly enjoyable to be able to move past cultural differences and shyness and share in something universal: laughter. At home as well, I was discovering we shared more similarities than differences, even if it did not appear that way on the surface. Speaking with Hawa, I learned how relationships in Uganda were actually quite similar to relationships in America. I learned about the school system, family dynamics, and development from the viewpoint of Ugandans. Both at home and at the work sites, I was learning and experiencing cultural diffusion right before my eyes, something I never thought to see. The last days of work for my group were spent completing our water harvesting tank. Most of our time was spent watching some of the hired help do work, but we did help, even if at times it did seem like they were humoring me when they let me hammer. They were certainly far more efficient than I could ever hope to be. The most value I found I got out of this experience, though, was working with the community members as opposed to working for them. Working side by side under the Ugandan sun was truly a wonderful experience, and listening to stories and getting to know people like Paul and George are intangible souvenirs that I brought back home with me from my trip to Masaka. We also met some more of the local community members, all the host families, and also watched a presentation about HIV/AIDS by women and men who are all carriers of the virus. The talk of HIV/AIDS only reiterated how much HIV/AIDS was a part of the culture in Uganda. The students at the school had sang songs about it, and so too did these men and women who took the time to put on the show for us. Before we left, we met one last time at the FSD office to debrief about the work we had done. Something Adam, an FSD coordinator from the San Francisco office, had said really resonated with me. He said that our work here made us part of a process and was not work that stood alone, and that was something we should be proud of. While 14 tippy taps, 10 trees, and 3 water harvesting tanks might not seem like much, these are 27 things Chanamukaka did not have before, and that was the difference we made. That impact, though, was smaller compared to everything I took away from my experience in Masaka. The physical labor I performed with my group in Uganda was not work the local community could not have done. Indeed, as pictures have proven, they were far more efficient than we were. But the actual working side by side was what was rewarding, as that was how I learned about the whys behind the whats of Ugandan culture. Living with my host family, working with locals, and adapting to a new culture and customs was something that required an open mind, patience, and a willingness to learn and adapt, and I found myself leaving Uganda with a concrete idea of what a small group of students could do to catalyze a community into serving themselves. Now that I've returned home, I carry with me the memories of my trip to Uganda. Every time I turn on the tap or step into the shower, I remember my days spent in Uganda without these things. I remember a different culture and how much value things like water have to people who live across the world. And I also remember the little push the CLIP group has given in the large scale of asset-based development. My group spent 10 days prompting a community into helping themselves, into building a better world without the help of foreign money, but with their own hands. The interactions and feelings of having done something other than throw money at a problem is something that made more of a difference than I could have ever imagined, and it's an experience I am beyond thankful for.
Receive it, huh? Now let's wait it out. You start.
Umeme, 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 fire, 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 fire.
I love it.